And then today we'll cover the third chapter on event-driven programming. So it's best for us to do a recap first lah. All right. Let me see. Oh, Wong is not here. Yesterday, one of my RSD student, the first year student, he applied for to get his vaccination. I envy him. I didn't even receive any appointment. Have you all registered for your vaccination? So, sama lah. Okay. Have you heard about? I see. Have you all heard about the new variant? And then people say that it's more deadly and then more easier to infect people. That we need to wear double mask now. The Delta variant. Delta, then they have all this variant, right? Now I wear my mask even if I go out to throw my rubbish. India, ya macam India yang Delta variant. I lose track already how many variant are there. Alpha, beta, ada beta kah? But then I heard of alpha. Then there's a Delta variant. What do you think? Will we be having online class until end of this year, or perhaps next year? Okay. Wong is not here yet. It's okay. I'll just start the quizzes. Graduation up until graduation. Okay, and then we'll have another round of what do you call that, Ivan? MQA audit. Okay, for RSD. Okay, so okay, the link is here, so I'll post it now. Okay, it's here. We'll also do a recording. Okay, go ahead and join. Once everyone already joined, then I'll start the quiz. Oh, Ivan and Lim is in, Russell is in. A very simple 5 questions from chapter 2. Just to see how much you all remember from what we have learned last week. Okay, Kelvin is in. Celine is in. Nine. I don't see Alvin. Alvin, are you there? Oh, entering. Okay. All right, so I'll click the start button now. Enjoy. Yeah, this is an unlimited try, so you can try and try again. Normally, if you do some kind of repetition, you will be able to remember something. So let's just wait for a while, yeah. Question number 2, razor. uh, in fact, it's in our chapter 2, the razor markup. It was mentioned, the one with the at symbol. You can go and have a look, chapter 2, Farah and Noel. I guess after this, everyone will remember what is a razor markup. Woohoo! Okay. The unlimited try. So, okay, mastery. Woohoo! Right? So I can see that Celine, you're back. All right. I know you can do it. Russell pun steady, Noel pun steady. Okay, so Celine, you need to give the guys the best competition. Okay, let me see. What's the statistic? 80%. Oh, not bad. If you want to share, okay, let me uh, um, uh, if you want to share, if you want to do another practice, okay, so let me paste this here. Okay, so I guess this for this practice link, it will it's not a live game lah. Okay, the toughest question to create question number 4. Question number 4. To create a consistent look and feel site, you can apply the same. Last week you did this for your practical. You have created master page. Okay, you can have one master page or more than one master pages. Okay, what else? Interest. Oh, 4 seconds to answer. The average time, not bad. Longest question, development model. Yeah, because development model. The development model, web pages, yes. MVC, yes. Web forms, yes. Okay, let's see. It should be all 3. But then the one that we cover in our syllabus is the web forms, because we always start with an empty project and then we add web forms, right? And then when we save the web forms, the file extension is .aspx. Okay, any other things? Okay, so question 4 is the hardest. So it should be master page. Farah tengok apa jawab. Out. Or at least the idea is there. Okay, or tidak cukup. ASP.NET, no, this is the web form. Okay, plan, no, tak ada plan. Navigation, no. Okay, web tak ada. Okay, so let me exit from here. All right. What's the time now? It's 9:13. Let's get a 5 minutes rest. After our morning exercise, we need to rest a bit, freshen up, grab your Milo or your coffee, and I'll be back in 5 minutes, yeah? Wong, we have just finished our quizzes just now. Let me give you the practice link so you can practice. And I will start in 5 minutes time for chapter 3. Yeah, Wong? Okay, I'm back. So, Wong, how was it? Were you able to do the quizzes? First time for me to share a practice link. Normally, we do live game every week. Let me know whether you were able to do it. Okay, share my screen now. Oh, boleh ah? Okay, good. Hmm. Yeah, Wong, why were you late? Baru bangun. uh, you have some problem with your internet. Hmm? I guess, Elvin, you didn't check my private comment. I asked you to turn in your practical lab 2 exercise. Did you forget about this, Elvin? Or you forget to click the turn in button? And then, Ivan, can you show me your output also, or were you having any errors? Let me see your output too lah. The rest all looks good. Okay. Okay, that's for practical 2 lab exercise. Tomorrow, there will be 2 lab exercises, but I don't think you have time to finish both. And then next week should be, I believe, database programming, which is very important also for your assignment. So I've decided to set only one of the exercises as compulsory and the other one is as optional. Okay. And then I've already recorded the demo video, a quite long video because I want to separate it into based on what we are working on. All these are event-driven programming and also Postback. Okay, and then yeah, yang regarding the assignment kan, so have you all decided the add students? Have you decided on your group members? Oh, by the way, who's the class rep and assistant class rep for group 2? So if you look at the assessment rubrics for the first part of your assignment, database integration is included. Okay, and then the controls, good use of the controls. Bound control means we need to bind your server controls to your database table. Okay. Program logic, yep, especially when you need to perform the required tasks. And then regarding GUI, so in GUI, notice that excellent means good use of master page, yes, and also navigation controls. We have learned this. And then complete usability and the functioning of the system. For the part 1, you need to submit it in week 8. So was it? Did I miss it? Week 8. Yeah, this one. So now is week 3. You have 5 more weeks to submit your prototype lah. And then you need to give a demo each group member. So basically, I will have how many? Have you all decided? Group 2, is it 4-4 or 3-3-2? Okay, and then over here, the one that you need to include in your first prototype is the user maintenance. Okay, the user customer to register account, and then the second one is the gallery lah. Okay, the artwork gallery. Mm. Make sure everything is linked appropriately, no broken links, must perform database transaction. Yeah, we'll cover this next week. Right. So For group one, Noel, can you put in the stream, okay, the group member, and then for group two, you continue from the list lah, okay, the list of group member. This is for my record of the listing. Okay, thanks, Noel. You can sit here. And then group two, I will let group two to add into the list as well. Or perhaps group two can pass the name to Noel, whichever is you prefer. Okay. So let me start the recording for chapter 3. In case it's a Q&A, you can raise your hand, you can turn on your mic and talk to me, or you can also use the Q&A feature. Right, so if you have your slides ready, you can also view your own slides, or you can just view my presentation. Today, we're going to cover two major things. The first one is the event-driven programming, and then the second part is the postback. Okay, remember, so far we have learned how to add server controls into our web forms, and then the next question is what happens, say, after click submit button and then or cancel. Sometimes you want the user to still have the data on the web form, and there's no need for them to like retype everything, so on. So that is where view state and also postback comes in. Okay, postback not only refers to one page, but then we can also have cross postback, means involves more than one web pages. Okay, so what are the things that we will cover today? First of all, definitely you need to know the definition of the event, and then there will be basically two major types. One is the HTML events. As you all know, HTML events, these are locally processed, yeah. And then a server control events, means these events are processed by our web server. Right. So for the server web control, since you are using the .NET framework, they're using ASP.NET, our focus will be on the ASP.NET page events. And as what I mentioned just now, we're going to learn about postback as well. And the most important part would be the event-driven programming. This is what you're going to do tomorrow. Okay, this is what you're going to do tomorrow for your practical, right? I'm not really sure how this is covered in the exam question. First time for me to teach this, but then I know event-driven programming is a must for your assignment. Let's take a look at the previous past year. The past year that I have, it's not the most recent one. Okay, let's see. Sometimes we need to take a look at what we have, okay, to know how we tackle the theory part. Okay, static dynamic already learn, CIL, CLR already learn. Okay, okay, this is master page, sitemap already learned, question 1 settled. Question 2, oh, this is database programming already. Oh, okay, ini belum belajar, session belum belajar, that's it. Oh, okay. I have idea already. Mm, static dynamic website. Okay, the two-step compilation. We have learned this. Okay, look at question 1B. Question 1B. What does it say? Berapa marks? 7 marks. Explain how an ASP.NET web form is able to retain its state as it interacts with users. Name this mechanism and describe how it works. Okay, this is from our chapter 3, definitely from chapter 3. Um, how to make the web form retain its state means to keep all the values in the controls. Okay, say for example, you have text boxes. What else? Text boxes. Perhaps you have your drop-down list already been selected. So the question is, how will our web form retain the state? Okay, runtime error. Okay, master page. Oh, you can see that master page is quite a popular question. This from our chapter 2, right? Mm, oh, a server state mechanism. I'm not sure whether this is also from chapter 3, remembering items added to a wish list. Possible. Optimize performance macam belum lagi. Grid view, details view in a database. Hopefully we can see this next week. And then how to implement model binding method. Definitely chapter 4, database. Okay, you all have idea already? What kind of theory question? Let me see. Method of compilation. Yeah, for ASP.NET, we're using the two-step process, right? Web pages, static, dynamic. Okay. But then remember, this is a face-to-face exam where the candidates need to attend the examination and then sit on a and then sit in the exam hall and then write their answers. For you all will be an online assessment. So I believe the question will be an open book. Definitely need to be an open book type of question. Okay, category of web page. Event driven. Okay, question 1C is definitely from chapter 3, the one that we are going to learn today, just a little bit after this. Describe the event-driven programming. So basically, you need to know what is event-driven programming. And then list 3 major groups of events supported by ASP.NET. Okay, I know this the answer for this one already. Okay, it's in the slide. Okay, list. Wow. Okay. Okay, now I know. C2. List the stages of events. I thought I want to skip this one because this one is very dry, very lengthy. Uh, I guess I need to cover this. Okay, list the stages of events. So I will show you where it is in our slide. List the stages of events in ASP.NET Web Forms from the beginning of page load until the last stage when it unloads. Oh my goodness. 4 markah saja. Okay. Now I'm imagining, right, if students need to do this for face-to-face, they need to memorize all the stages starting from page load, which is init. Init is initialization until unload. Unload means unload from the system memory. Wow, this is a lot of theory, this one. But I can see that this is memorizing. I don't think for our final online assessment, they will give you a memorizing question. Okay, you will definitely get an open book question. This is student can simply copy paste. But then if the question asks you to describe, so meaning using your own word, what are the stages of events in ASP.NET, you still need to know how it works. Okay, authorization, state management, validation. Validation is included in the second part of your assignment. Um, okay, what else? Three ways to find data, database. Okay, I have a good idea already. I'm glad that I have this passive question, even though it's not the recent one. Before that, I need to jot down something. Need to go to our online library to get the past year question for BAIT 2113. Have you all searched for a past year question through our online library? You should try that. Okay, let me go back to my slide. So hopefully by going through the uh, past year question, will give you some idea on how we should tackle this particular chapter. Okay. Now, the definition of event. What is an event? Event is an action, all right, whereby this action is taken normally by the user, or it can also be triggered by another program. So when we write codes for our event, the codes will be executed when that particular action occurs. So it depends on whether it's a click of a button or there's if for drop down list, then it will trigger, what was it already? Item selected change. Okay, cannot remember it, but it is covered in your practical tomorrow. Okay, so this slide talks about the definition of event. Next, okay, we see this in the past year question just now. Describe the event-driven environment. So basically, in this particular environment, we have four, okay, four chronological sections. Chronological means it must be in the correct order. So the first section is where the event occurs. For example, there's a user clicks on a button. So if you refer to the previous slide, okay, an action taken on your application by some force outside of your code. So we can say that when the user clicks on a button, this is an example of force from outside, okay, from outside of your page. And the second section is after the event occurs, then the system should be able to detect the event. So we're using ASP.NET, right? So ASP.NET should register that the event has occurred. Now, for like a GUI web app using Java, okay, previously Shak and Alvin I think the rest of the DIS student, you have learned this, okay, event-driven programming, but then using Java as your language, okay, where in Java, you need to register, you need to add listener to listen to the event, okay. For ASP.NET, yeah, this is what happened. The system should detect the event first, means need to register that the event has occurred. And the third section is the system reacts to the event. React means it trigger our event, the code that we have programmed for the event. So you can see here the example. Some code is executed perhaps to display something or to perform calculation and so on. It depends on the code that we add into our, normally we call it as, if you click on a button, then it will be by default, the button underscore click. Okay, the method will be ready for you automatically, right, in the code behind. The last event not, section is when the system returns to its original state. So original state is before the event, any event occur, means it is waiting for the next event. So basically, this is the answer for the one of the question that we have seen just now. Passive question: describe the event-driven environment. So perhaps if there's a FOA on this part, you can describe using your own example. Okay, just don't get the exact example given in your slide. Okay, next one. What's the difference between our procedural programming and event-driven programming? For procedural programming, the code of execution is line by line. Okay, but then for event-driven, no, it can jump. Okay, from one event to another event. So you can see in the second bullet here, execution of our codes depends on the user, because our system will wait until an event occurs. So it will refer to this one, okay, the 4 chronological section. Wait for the event to occur, and then this will happen. So this is our how it will be executed. So that's why we say this is a 4 chronological section. For procedural programming, no, like C programming, it will be line by line, right? Okay, so there's another question from our Pasia just now. What are the 3 major groups of events supported by ASP.NET? This is the answer. These are the 3 major groups of events. So the first one here, HTML events. So this is processed locally, right? And then the other 2 are the ASP.NET itself. Okay, these 2 will be processed by the web server. And then what's the difference between number 2 and number 3? Number 2 is a page level events. Basically, it happens when the page is being loaded. Okay, and then the third one is server control events. Remember our server control, we have ASP button, ASP text box, all those, yeah. So meaning if you have a drop down list, okay, and then you want to write a code when the user select any of the item in the drop down list, so that is under server control events. Okay. So basically, we have answered the past year question already. Right. Now, next one, HTML event. So this is the first one, yeah. The first group of events supported by ASP.NET. Uh, like what I mentioned just now, it occurs on the web page. Okay, so it is handled locally. What does it mean? It means it's handled by our web browser, the client part. So it's not a server side. Okay, this is a client side handled by the web browser. Since it is handled by our own web browser, there's no need for us to transfer any information to the server. Okay, very easy to remember. The first one is client side, and then the other 2 are server side. Now, one example, in fact, in the original slide, it is empty, but I add one example for you. On submit event. I'm sure you're familiar with this because you have learned web design and development before this. On submit event occurs when a form is submitted. Okay, let me show you an example. Okay, if you want to try the code, the link is given down there. So if you look at the sample code, we have a form, right? And then there's a on submit. Okay, means when the button, all right, when the submit button is being clicked, it will execute the my function. And then if you look at the my function, it is a JavaScript. So what happened? alert the form was submitted. All right, so this is the output. When I click submit, then I will get this alert message, the form was submitted. So basically this is processed by our own web browser. Remember, for web browser, normally we use JavaScript. Okay. Mm, the next one would be to cover the other two ASP.NET events, the page level and also the server control. But before that, remember, we have incomplete example. So for this one, for blended learning, I have a question ready for you. Yes, HTML events. Provide any one example of an HTML event. So if you found any short YouTube video, please share the link. Or perhaps you found any website very useful and you want to share with the rest of your classmates, please include the link as well. So this is for collaborative learning, yeah, where you can reply to each other. Okay, let me double check. So student can reply to each other, student can edit your own answer. Today is 7, oh, 7/7. I saw this event. Normally the online shopping, they have a 7/7 event. Okay, so make it okay tomorrow, July 8th. All students, short answer. Here, I didn't use any YouTube video this time, but I include the website link. Okay, so I click ask. Ask for blended learning. Okay. So what's the time now? 9:46. Okay. All right. I can see we need to cover the list of stages in the page event and stages, which is quite lengthy. How about we go for a 5 minutes break, and I'll see you after this. Okay, I'm back. Uh, really need to stretch after sitting down for quite some time, right? Okay, I really wish I can go for a massage. Ah, sakit badan, semua pun sakit. After staying at home for like almost 2 years, is it? Almost 2 years? Coming to 1 year plus. I tried to open my Visual Studio, but then it asked me to unlock my free experience, or otherwise, then what does it say? Your credentials expire in a day. Sign in to continue using Visual Studio Community Edition. Okay. And there's Visual Studio 2019 update. Or need to update version 16.10.3. My credential expire in 8 days, but then I need to use this. I wanted to use one of our previous code, so let me continue with this unlocking of my credential. I hope this is not phishing. I don't give my email or anything. What best describe your current position, teacher? What best describe the type of project you are working on? Type of project? Web. Okay. Which language or framework do you use for development? .NET. Okay. Next. Guess they are trying to get feedback to tell about the experience. How many years of experience do you have in professional software development? Professional software development? Professional? No, I'm just in the education. I'm not in the industry. Oh, but before I joined as a lecturer, I did work in the industry, right? Yeah, Ada. How long have you been using Visual Studio? Oh, how long have I been stitching in TAUC? I've used this since I started to teach PCD1. PCD1, I think I remember Ivan's batch. Kan Ivan? PCD1, C programming. Before that, normally Miss Alice is teaching. Or when was that, Ivan? Cannot remember already. Why do they ask all these questions? Which statement best describe how you use the cloud? Currently, do not use the cloud. Okay. Okay, not interested, but we might need to deploy, right? Uh, Never mind, I just need to unlock my free Visual Studio community. From the list below, please select the cloud provider you are currently using. Tiada. Oh, Google Drive lah. That's the only one. Okay. Wow, so many questions. Oh, okay. It's, the last page. Please stay with me. How many developers do you directly work with? Developers. Are you my developers? Yes. 11. No, I just put I don't work directly with other developers, but you all are my programmers, okay? Web developers. Okay, how many developers are in your company? There's no developer. Okay, none. Is there any developer? No, we're not a professional developer. Then, okay, what else? Can I open my Visual Studio now? Hang on. Oh, okay, my GitHub. Okay lah, remove. I'm not using my GitHub. Sign in to Visual Studio. What's my sign in? Nanti lah. Okay, so I think I can open already. Okay, because I need my Visual Studio. All right. Okay, my Visual Studio. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now let's continue on my slide. Mm. Yeah, I'm using Community Edition 2018, 19, 20, 21. Oh, 3 tahun sudah. Okay. Just now I went to my toilet, right? Sorry, yeah. Since it's a lockdown and I can't go back to my hometown, I can only talk virtually. Just now I went to my toilet and I smell food. You know, when you're staying at the apartment, whenever your neighbor is cooking, only 10 o'clock they already start cooking for lunch. Oh my! I smell. I think it's belacan, kangkung belacan. And that reminds me of our Lab 52. Any one of you remember Lab 52? Back in Dongongon campus, you open the door before the restaurant closed, the one below our lab. You open the door, you definitely can smell, what do you call that? The pork meat being grilled. Is it grilled? Char sao? No, no, no. Sao nhok. You open our toilet door and then you can smell food. That reminds me of the old time. But I've never used the lab in the new campus already. I think Celine, Ivan, and Wong, you have been to our lab. How do you like our current lab in the new campus? Smell like plastic. Uh, nice. Okay. Have you all used the tutorial rooms? Oh, been there twice, huh? You've been there with Miss Florence. No, no, Dr. Florence. Unfortunately, she left already. Okay, yeah. I think we'll see, hopefully. But then for bachelor degree, how many years sudah tu? 3 years, 4 years? Okay, we still have time. By that time, this pandemic will be over. Everyone will be vaccinated. Just a new norm, wear mask. Okay, then I guess we can return to campus. Okay, that's my toilet story for today. I'll start the next recording. So do you notice that I separate my recordings? This is for you easy lah, convenience for you to check the mid recording later. Okay, let me start the recording and continue from where we stopped just now. Okay, so we have covered the first part, which is the just now we learned that there are 3 major groups of events supported by ASP.NET. We are talking about the group of events. So we have looked at HTML events, and just now I've already given you the question. I have one example on submit event. Okay, so HTML event handled by the browser. So this is client side. Now, how about the ASP.NET events? There are 2. One is the page level, and then the second one is, remember, we have the server controls. Okay, we can add our server controls into a web form. So each of these server control, if you want to have some kind of event that you want to add some code on it, Okay, if that event occur, you want something to be performed, then you can do that. Okay, so let's start with the second one, which is the page event. Okay, page event. Look at the first bullet. Okay, events that are automatically run by ASP.NET. So when you see the word automatically run, okay, go to the third bullet. There is no user involvement. Okay, because I want you all to go back to the first one. Okay, the definition of event, what does it say? It's an action taken by some force outside of your code. So usually by the user, it could be another program. So we can say triggered by the load, okay, the page load. So that is the second type of event, the ASP.NET Page event. Automatically run when a page loads, meaning before you can even see the page, this event has occurred. Okay, as simple as that. So what happens during the loading of the page? So these are the page events. We have the initialization of the page, meaning before the loading, get the loading itself, and then before it display the output, whatever that we have on the page can be seen by the user. We have the pre-rendering and then render. After render, then your user will be able to see the web page, and lastly would be the unload. Okay, these are the page events. So basically, the keyword here is init. So if we have any server controls with default values, then that will be included in the initialization. Load the server controls default values. And then during the load, this is where I remember our chapter 3 is also about postback. This is where if there's any postback, it will be handled during this particular stage. And then if there's any view state values, values would be the value that we want to retain. Okay, then it will be handled during the loading stage. Now, how about, because we have pre-rendering and render, what's the difference? Pre-render means we will perform the necessary updates before the output is rendered. So the output is rendered in this stage. Okay, and then this is where the pre-rendering, where um, ASP.NET will generate a hidden field. Okay, a hidden field. There's one slide showing us the example of this code, a hidden field. This hidden field will contain the view state values. Okay, so every values that we have will be stored in this particular hidden field value. All right, so this is pre-rendering, and then render. This is where our HTML writer object will generate. Remember our HTML? Okay, get all the HTML text to be generated, and then we will see the output. Now, how about unload? Unload. Unload means we release any critical resource. Okay, for example, there's a file being opened, so we release the file. Release the file means we close the file. Okay, or perhaps if you are connected to a database during unload, then we release the database object. Right, so this is an example of the page events. There are 4 stages: initialization or init, load, pre-rendering, render. This is where we see the output, unload, perhaps when the user click close, okay, close the web page. So any critical resource, for example, the files, database connection will be released. Next. Okay, this is the series of events that automatically occur on the web server itself. okay, on the web server. So during these page events, we also need to understand what happens uh, in our web server. So during the init event, then the page is actually requested from the server. Requested from the server. And then during the load event, this is where after our web page has been requested from the server, all our server controls have been initialized. So remember when you add in your, say, drop down list, you want to add items, yeah, so everything will be ready, will be initialized, and view state has been restored. Means the value from the original before the loading event happens. Okay. Um, During the load event, okay, we're referring to here, okay, during the load event. So what else happened on the web server? Okay, what else happened on the web server? Our controls initialized. Okay, all the view state has been restored. And then the example of initialization operation, such as retrieving data, initializing the form controls, like what I mentioned just now, the drop-down list you add in with items. These are some of the examples. Then we have the pre-render, means before we get to see the output, right? Um, it means that all the control events have been processed, especially for the page load. But then this is before we display our output, means before the HTML being set to the browser. And then as it is mentioned here, not in our syllabus. Okay, for this web server, what happens when we are in the last stage, which is the unload stage? Then the page is unloaded from the web server. In our case, the Microsoft IIS memory, and then sent out to a browser. Okay, right, quite lengthy. This is all about what happened during the page load. But then in fact, let me show you. In fact, if you want to see the example in your, let me see, in your Visual Studio, we can go to our code behind. If you want to do anything when the page load, you can put your code here. Okay. So this is to show you the example that we have in the Visual Studio page load. Okay, let me go back to my slide. Okay. The third one is the server control events. As what you can see here, server controls. Let's see, server controls. Let me go to my form. Okay, once I'm in my form, you look at our toolbox. Under standard toolbox, we have a lot, correct? A lot of control. Like this is, what is it? Let me go to split view. This is the ASP button. Okay, SP button. This is a server control. Notice that we have the run add attribute with the ID. These are the two important attributes, okay, for our server controls. So the reason why I want to show you all that, because for the third group of events, okay, is the server control events. It's the largest event group. And then any events associated with this server control will be handled by the server. And then normally it occur when the user themselves interacts with the page. And if you want to compare this with the ASP.NET page event, this one requires no user involvement, automatically run by ASP when the page load, right? Get back to here. So you can see a total difference here. It does not occur automatically. It will only occur when there's a user interaction. The best example, very easy to understand, would be the click event that associates with a button, for example, the ASP button. So let me show you one more time. Okay, my visual code. So if you double click on this button, this is my button already. Name it as button submit. Okay. Uh, my ID is BTN submit. I think if it's by default it's button one, right? Okay. So when I double click on this, it should be able to show as this particular method. Okay, a button submit click. So if I do not rename my button, then it will still be button one click lah. Okay, notice that this particular um, event, okay, we require two arguments. Okay, this is the event arguments, right? Represent the class that contain the event data, provides a value to use for events. Okay. Just to show you the example. Okay, let me go back to my slide. The click event that associates with a button. Okay, so I already show you just now. Now, what's the advantages for server control events? Okay, the advantages, it will be executed on the server. What does it mean? Is it good if we execute it on the server? Yes, because we have more available resources. Okay, and then since it is handled by the server, okay, you look at the second advantage. We are not relying on the browser for the processing. Okay, and because of that, we can use any language to write the code. For the HTML event just now, notice that in our example, what do we use? We use JavaScript. But then, if you remember my Visual Studio just now, the method we can add in, since we select C sharp, right? So we can use C sharp, okay, as our language to write code for our event handler. So again, let me show you. This is the event handler, so we can write our code here. Okay. Now, before we go to the next part, these three questions. Okay, three questions. Let's see, Celine. Okay, what are the three major groups of events supported by ASP.NET? Do you know the answer, Celine? Okay, so the second question, what are the two groups of events? Means refer to question number one, there are three major groups of events, right? So the second question, very easy question, what are the two groups of events handled by server? Daniel, what's your answer for question number two? Okay, number three. The third question, why is it necessary to handle events on the client side? Because we have seen here, we have disadvantages for server control events. We have more available resources. Okay, we can use any language to write the code, right? So basically, the server-side event handlers are so powerful, but then Why is it necessary to handle events on the client side? I would like to get Wong. Okay, Wong, what's your opinion on this third question? Okay, let me see whether there's something in the chat box. So Celine, can you type your answer in the chat box, or perhaps you can turn on your mic? And then number two, just now, who did I ask? Daniel. Daniel, right? Daniel, do you have the answer? And Wong, question number three. Why do you think we still need the client side to handle events? Mm. But then question number three, we need more opinions. More opinions. So I want Wong to answer this. Russell, give me your opinion also. Russell, why do we still need this handling of events using JavaScript? Means browser level. Russell, Wong, I want to hear more opinion. Siapa lagi semua tanya? Noel, I want to ask Noel. Or perhaps Kelvin. Kelvin, what's your opinion for the third question? Okay, let me see. Celine already answered the three groups of events: HTML event, page level events, server control events. Correct. Okay, Daniel, still waiting for your answer. Question number two. Oh, let me see. Is Daniel here? Oh, ada ba? Daniel ada. Okay, and then um, Wong answers, event on client side can be used to handle client side validation. Yes. And Russell answer, client side processing is faster. I agree. Okay, I do agree. Right, so let me go back to my slide. Okay, so basically, the three major groups, the HTML event, ASP.NET page level events, and also the ASP.NET server control events. So out of these three, the two groups of events handled by the server, definitely the number two and number three, which are the ASP.NET page level events and ASP.NET server control events. And number three, yes, just now Wong answered, yeah. So we use client side to perform simple tasks. We still need the client side to perform simple tasks because it's much more faster, right, Russell? Like for our visual effects, for input validations, for calculation, perhaps to convert currency, and like what Russell mentioned, it provides us immediate response. The thing is, since it is handled client side, handled by the web browser, it is done locally. That's why it's much more faster. Okay, so good job. Okay, now this is what we need to do when we want to add event to our server control. Or I've seen Daniel's answer, init event, load event. Oh, no. That's incorrect, Daniel. The question number two refers to the question number one. We have three main groups. So which one are handled by the server? So definitely not even HTML events, but the ASP page event and also ASP.NET server control events. So that's the answer, yeah? Okay. Now let me continue. So how do we add events to a server control? There are two steps. First of all, say we have the button server control, this ASP button server control. We just need to add attributes. Okay, so this is the run at server with the ID, and then since it's a button, we can display something on the button, right? Using the text attribute. the one that you need to add would be this one, this attribute. Okay, so how do we add this? With the name of the event. So a button, we associate a button with a click event. So it will be on click. So this is the attribute that you will add to our button server control. Okay, and then how about the value equal to? So this one would be the event handler. Okay, the event handler. So if you have the event handler, uh, then you will make sure that you don't make any typo error lah. So this is where I noticed that there's a typo in this example. Uh, Actually, I saw this last night, but I didn't make any changes. Do you see the ID? What's the ID button one? Let me see. Mm, Never mind. I'll let you all figure this one out. Okay. So our button, okay, on click, add in the event handler name. So the event handler name, how do we get this? Remember just now I show you, I double click on the button and then automatically Visual Studio add in this method for me. All right. So what is the second step? The second step is to create the event handler. So after you double click the button, then this will be ready for you. You can view this from the C sharp, okay, our code behind view. So like what I mentioned just now, there are two arguments. Okay, the first one, okay, we need this sender object to provide reference to our caller, means the sender itself lah, that raised the event. And then this second argument, this one shows the event class. Actually, just now I already read the description for it, yeah, from the Visual Studio. It captures information about the state of the event and then pass that object that's specific to the event. So this one will vary lah. Okay, it will you can have different event class. So these are the simple two steps to add events to a server control. Number one, on the server control itself, this is you will do this in your web form lah, .aspx. You need to specify this particular event, okay, as the attribute, and then the value of this particular attribute refers to the event handler. You double click that particular server control, and then you will get this in the code view, right? The C sharp. Okay, in this slide, there's an example of code. This is for the image click event args. So basically, look at the server control. We are referring to ASP image button. Okay, ASP image button with the ID, image button 1, image button 2. This is what I'm talking about. If you'll notice, okay, the ID is button 1, but then the event handler is button 1 click. Go back here. These are web server control because of this run at server, run at server. And for image button means our button, we are not displaying text. So you do not see text equals to something. But then there's another attribute, image URL, okay, to specify the name of the image file to be displayed on the button. And then this is, what is this? This is the attribute that you need to add to your server control. Okay, so button definitely is click. So on click equals to button click. Now, if you rename your event handler as button click, make sure at the attribute here, it is also referring to the same one. Okay, and then for image button, it will detect that we are dealing with image click event args. So basically, let's look at what they are trying to execute here. If sender dot equals, so we need this. Why do we need this as sender object? This is to provide reference to the caller. Okay, that raise the event. So meaning clicking the event. If it is equal to the first image button, then we are assuming that we also have another server control, which is the label. Okay, label one dot text. You click button one at position. What position? You open. Okay, and then go out here. Append it with. Notice that we are referring to the event object. Okay, the event object E, and then we retrieve the property of x coordinate and convert it to string, because we want to append this string, right? You click button one at position, we are trying like to show the coordinate displayed in a what do you call a bracket, yeah, plus comma. Okay, this is the x coordinate, space, and then we use the image click event to display the y coordinate, and then to display it as a string, we use the toString method, and then we close it with a suddenly I do not know what's the name of this bracket. Okay, but I do not have this example. I don't have fish.jpg, I don't have cat.jpg, so I cannot show you this example. How about I play around with my practical one? Okay, let's play around with my practical one, since I do have okay, let me open my web form. Okay, since I have this from my practical one, what is this? This is a label 2. Okay, this is a text box. This is a button. This is my details. Okay, let's play around with this. So if I want to add events, what do I need to do? At this particular server control ASP button, this is my ID, button submit. So do you notice what's wrong with the code just now? Okay, if you have already changed the ID to a certain ID, okay, when you do a double click, all right, it will be the same name. Okay, so button submit, on click, button submit, click. So this is what we need to add in this particular attribute. This is how we add event. Okay, the rest are already we have covered in chapter 1, in practical 1. Make sure that our server control, we have the ID attribute and the run attribute. Okay, text is simply to display the name of the button. Okay, so this is the button submit click. Okay, so what shall we do here? To show that something happened, we do some processing. Do you all have any idea? Okay, let me just use whatever I have here. Level 1, initially it's my details. Oh, okay. Okay lah, level 1 lah. I think I want to just override my details. Okay, just a simple one. Label 1, okay, dot text. Not a good example, but at least we are showing that we have added in event handler. This is my event handler for my submit button. All right, event handler is in fact a method lah. Um, Welcome. Okay, will this one work? Let's see. Let me try to run this. Okay, down here it's building. Oh, my browser is here. Loading. See, when you see loading, so you can imagine already there are some stages happening at the web server side. At the web server side, init init happen when we what happened during init already? We request the page, okay, and then I think I need to show you this slide just now. What happened? Because we are referring to the third example, right? The ASP.NET Server control. So what happened? When you see our page is loading, a series of events occur on the web server, automatically occur for us. So first, my page is requested from the server. In my case, it's a IIS server. And then during the loading, all the controls have been initialized. So I have my, what are the controls that I have? The label, the text box, the button. Okay, but I don't have any initialization, so I don't have any init method in my C# just now. Pre-render, so all the control events have been processed before it is output to the browser, and then unload. This is where the page is unloaded from my server and then sent out to browser. So we will be able to see the output. So what's the output? This is my output. So we are assuming that my IIS server returns the output to my browser. Okay. So if I click submit, so something happened. All right. So that's how easy it is to add the, what do you call that? Uh, Event to our server control. Okay, I repeat, for say we have this as server control, we just need to add this particular attribute with the name of the event. The value would be the event handler. So I believe I can, I need to name it to button one. Yeah, I rename it already. Button one. Do you all agree? There's a typo there. Even though I already went through the slide, I only noticed it last night. Oh, there's uh, something is wrong. Okay. What's next? So in this slide, we will see what's the difference between the HTML event and server control event. So basically, just now Celine has answered there are two major group of events. We have the HTML events and the server control event. And then don't not forgetting the page event. But then here we are trying to find the difference between the first one and the third one, the HTML event and the ASP.NET server control event. Okay, so from this table, we can see it very clear. For HTML event handler, it runs on the client side, all right? So rely on the browser support, and we already see my example that it is written in JavaScript. Okay, so all the resources are restricted to client side. On the other hand, okay, direct opposite, for a server control event handler, it runs on the server side. Okay, it works across all browsers. The reason is that the event is handled by the server, and the event handling code can be written in any languages supported by .NET. For our example, it would be C#. So we have more available resources that we can use in our code. Okay. Now, let me show you one more time. What do we have? Mm, one moment. Show you one more time. So for the HTML event handler, notice that our event handler, here we use the JavaScript, and then as what you can see, it is processed by our web browser. And then as for our web server, our server control event handler, where's my event handler? Okay, this is my event handler. All right. This is handled by the web server. And then just now when I click run, all right, let me stop this. You can see that it is processing, right? It is processing. That is showing, let me see this part, okay? A series of events that automatically occur on the web server, right? Mm, right. Now the another important part of event-driven programming is we want to like retain the values. The reason we want to retain the values is because our HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, it is stateless. Stateless means it retains no knowledge or no information from one request to another request. From this diagram, you can see that the client sending request number one, okay, go to the server, and then the server gives the response. And then the client send another request, the server process and send back the response to the client. So request one, request two, um, in this case, if we send using the HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, we cannot like connect both of them. They do not know, okay, if request one is you log in as this, and then you have selected this option, and then for request two, we definitely want to still retain our login value, what has been selected previously, right? But the problem is that HTTP is stateless. I believe we have taken computer network FCN, fundamentals of computer network. Okay, you have learned about HTTP, right? So hopefully you still remember what you have learned from, I believe it's Dr. Chris. Okay, for Noel's batch, I think it's the one of the KL lecturer, right? Okay, so to solve this problem, we have Postback. Okay, stateful Postback. The opposite of stateless is stateful. And then look at what we have down here. Our web form, we have the run at equals to server. And then take note that ASP.NET Web Controls, only ASP.NET Web Controls can retain states. So our server controls like our text box, our label, our drop-down list, okay, they can retain their state across Postback. Now, what is a Postback? You need to understand what is a Postback. This is a process by which the browser sends information to the server. Sends information to the server will handle the event. So imagine, yeah, what did I put into my event handler? Label one.text welcome. Okay, so the server handle the event, send the HTML back to the client, and we can see welcome. Right, we can see welcome displayed. Let me show you one more time. Where is it? Yeah. Oh, I think I closed it already. So this is my event handler. All right. So let's run this one more time. So you can see that Okay, I want you all to really understand this. In case the FOA asks you to describe event-driven programming in the context of ASP.NET. Okay, we are dealing with, oh, I see. Just now I show you mm, this one, right? This is in fact under the ASP.NET page event, the page loading. Okay, now let's go to the server control. So for server control, it does not occur automatically. It requests, require user interaction such as the click event. Okay, so here it's already been loaded. So the page ASP.NET page event already done. Now is the ASP.NET server control event. So it needs user interaction. It needs user interaction. So I have this button, click on it. Mhm, and I can see welcome. So this is where, let me go back to the Postback just now. This one. This is where, what is a Postback? Process by which the browser sends information to the server. So we detect there's an event, right? And then the server will handle the event, which is my button click event. And then after it has been processed, send the welcome, okay, the output back, the HTML back to the client. So remember this, only ASP.NET Web Controls can retain state. Now, very easy diagram for you to understand the Postback process. The explanation is given here, and this is a very simple diagram. Number one, event occurs. Like just now, I show you the click event. All right, and then it sends the web control info. So which web control is being clicked? My button. Okay, which button? BTN submit. And then the server will execute the code in the event handler. So what are the codes that I have in the event handler? Label one.text, and then I set with a string, a welcome string. And then server will send the resulting HTML back to client. So very easy. Okay, you look at this diagram, you look at this description. Hopefully you can explain Postback process in your own words. There's a more detailed diagram, okay? You just need to look at the steps. Number one, the browser request, okay? And then number two is, and then the server process. After the server process, and then it will call the page load. Remember the loading of the page, generate the HTML response, and it will display. Okay, still in the page load. Okay, next, after it has been displayed in the browser, say students start to fill up the form, but then my example just now, I didn't fill up anything. I just click the button. So post back to server, and then the server process the event, and then call the page load, right? And then over here, if if the user already clicked the enter after enter button after fill up the text box, and also what is this? Drop down list. Then the event handler will be triggered. Yeah, generate the HTML response. So this is the HTML response, and user will be able to see that in his or her browser. Okay, a very complete cycle. Now, when I show you this particular page event stages, I did mention about during these load stages, this is where we'll handle the postback and load the view state values. Okay, during this loading stage, we handle the postback and load the view state values as shown in this particular diagram. Okay, now let's look at what does it mean by view state. Okay, When Postback is used, information about the state of the ASP.NET form is sent back in an associated hidden control. This is mentioned in our previous few slides. Okay, so we do not see this because it is a hidden control. If you remember your web design HTML, the type is not text but hidden. Okay, and then the name by default will be view state. Remember, only ASP.NET Web Controls can return the state, yeah? So during the postback process, when it tries to return the view state value, this is what happened. Um, how do we return the values? How do they return the values? How do we get the values um, in our form? So this is what happened. This is a hidden control. So the name of the hidden control is underscore. This is a double underscore view state with a value. Notice that this is a very I would say unreadable value. Okay, the reason is that it has been encrypted for us. Okay, more secure. So all the values that we have on our web controls will be encrypted and set to this hidden control value attribute. Okay, which control the double underscore view state. We will not be able to see this because it's hidden. Okay, the information or value in the view state, okay, we are referring to this one, yeah. Okay, is generated by ASP.NET. So this is done by the server by encrypting the values of the old state of the form, meaning including the user selection, what they type in the text box, and so on, yeah. So with this information, okay, ASP.NET can persist. Persist means keep the state between page submissions. So the whole thing of um, how our ASP.NET Web Controls can retain state. Okay, and then let me show you one more time. This is with the use of the hidden control. Okay, what is the name of the hidden control? Double underscore view state. And then this value, as mentioned here, it is encrypting the values of the old state of the form. So every web controls for each of the web controls values will be encrypted and then assigned to this value attribute. Okay. So this is how we return the value. This diagram is a little bit too small. Let's go straight to the explanation, okay, for each of the stages for our view state. So stage one, this is where we initialize our page with the default properties and values. Stage number two, we will load our view state and restore to controls. So remember, view state values, we can keep it where? Because we have this in our hidden control. We have this in our hidden control. Load the view state and restore to control. So if say, for example, we have selected what's in our drop-down list in our practical tool, or the selection of the program, right? So if you select RSD, okay, so the selection that you have done will be restored to the control. Load the postback data. Okay, step number 4, page load event is triggered. Page load event refers to the second group of event. Okay, the second group of event. And then stage number 5, raise the postback event. Postback event, if there is any like event that the user triggered, for example, button click, or for the drop-down list, there's a selected index change. All right. And then stage number 6, this is where we save the view state. How do we save the view state? again using the hidden control. And then stage 7, render. So you try to, this is a very good diagram. Okay, a very good diagram starting from when it shows the page for the first time. Or here, where is it? Oh, first we request for the page. Yeah, okay, show the page for the first time. And then when the user type in the value, when the user click the button, which trigger the button click event, and then until we get our output. Okay, so you go through this diagram and you try to understand the given explanation in these 7 stages of the view state, right? Now, the next question is, why do we need view state? Because we want to store all these changes. Okay, we need to keep the value, right? Otherwise, then you don't expect your user to retype everything. Okay, the reason is that, as mentioned, HTTP is a stateless request. Okay, there's an example here. Mm, or uh, Oh, I think this is another example for you all. Similar example. Say you have a label, you have a button, and then this button display change message. This label is hello world. And then the second button is it shows empty postback. So we have 2 buttons. One is change message, one is empty postback, right? And then the label here initially it display hello world. Okay, this is the code behind that we have for the button click event, whereby if the button submit is click, submit in here, change message, then the label message, which is this one, initially showing hello world, will display goodbye everyone. Okay, so the explanation very detailed is given here. Step number 1, the page is visited for the first time. Definitely we see hello world. Okay, there's no postback. There's no state change. So what we see in our web browser is definitely hello world. Okay. Step number 2, assuming that the user click the change message button, then this will cause a postback. All right. And then the change message button click event will fire. So what will happen? The label text property will change to goodbye everyone. So that's why after the rendering stage, then our label will display goodbye everyone. Okay, step number 3. What happened if the user click the empty postback button? Remember just now there is another button. Okay, empty postback. Empty postback. So what happened is that the label will be set back to hello world. Will be set back to hello world. So during the view state stage, the text property will be assigned to goodbye everyone, because remember this has been saved from the previous visit. From the previous visit, our label is keeping the value goodbye everyone. Okay, that's how we retain the value, right? Oops. Oh, done already. Right. Um, we can use the view state property to persist page specific as well as user specific information across the postback, where if you want to do it explicitly in your event handler, then you need to use this particular statement. As an example, you have a data grid. But so far, we haven't used any data grid, right? We haven't used any data grid. But then a data grid looks like we can display, what can we display? We can display records from our table. in a tabular format. And for a data grid, normally the nice one allows us to sort by column. We can display page by page, page one, next page, previous page. Okay, so if you want to keep this info, then it must be persisted across Postback. This is where, before we end the lecture, there's another topic which is cross Postback, cross page Postback. Yes. Okay. But then there's a performance cost of using ViewStat. Remember that if we want to return the value, this is what happened. We have the information about the state of the form sent back in an associated hidden control. So if it's just a text box value, then as simple as this. But then remember, if you are using a data grid, you are displaying records from your database. So how big is your database? So you might end up getting a very big value in your hidden control. So input type, hidden name, double underscore view stat, and then look at this long encrypted value. So this shows as the performance cost of the view state, especially when you are dealing with certain type of controller. Okay, it grows huge very quickly. So that happens here. Extra size to our web page. You will learn this tomorrow, the cross-page Postback, whereby later you, I think we don't put it in our attribute, but then we set it in our property. Sama lah kan. Okay, we can set it in our property. Let me show you a little bit more. What's the time? Oh, 1 more minute. Okay, like this is my submit button. Okay, this is my text box. Do you notice that for the text box, this is a ASP text box, right? ASP.NET Web Control, only ASP.NET Web Control can return values, right? If you look at the property here, I select the text box. It is a server control ASP text box. Enable view step true by default lah. Okay. What else that I want to show you? Postback. I forgot already. Where's the property? I think it's in the form. So either you put it at the web server control attribute, Postback URL attribute, or you can type it in the property window. So what happened is that we will use this attribute to get the URL of the page to post when the button is clicked, because we are dealing with button. And then this is the page that we will post. The page is posted to the URL assigned. Very good example is given here. Okay, cross-page Postback. Assuming that you have web form number 1, you have web form number 2, and then within web form number 1, you have a button. Okay, and then you assign .postback URL. Now I remember. Need to go to button. Lupa sudah. Button. Is it? Yeah, correct. There's a property here. So either you do it in your source view, you type the code, or you select this submit button, and then in the property window, you type the Postback URL. Okay. Let me go back to here. All right, so this is the code. Postback URL equals to webform2.spx. So we are trying to do a cross-page Postback. And then assuming that in your web form number 2, you have a text box, okay, and then you want to find the text box 1 in web form number 1. Okay, so this previous page hold the reference to the page. which is web form 1.aspx. And then the find control means we want to find this control text box 1 from the previous page, which is our web form 1. Okay, and then we assign it to our text box object. This is how we like transfer whatever that we have here into another web form by using this postback URL, and then you need to add in this previous page dot find control. And then what I can see from here, since you already retrieved the text box from the previous web form, then you can set the value entered in the text box into your label in the second web form. So this is the last step in your practical tree demo exercise, demo practice tomorrow. Okay, so there's a cross-page prospect as well. Next week, it's database programming, and that's all for today's lecture. 3 minutes, 3 minutes already. Let me check. There's no question in the Q&A. Nothing in the chat box. You are done already, so I'll see you tomorrow. And I expect, Elvin, please submit your practical too. Oh, Ivan, can you add in the output also? Okay, so bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Miss.
Okay, Miss. Thank you.
Welcome, bye-bye.